Ages 65 to 80. If you still have these 5 things, you're doing life right. Being lonely alone is better than being miserable together. Take a second and really think about that. Have you ever heard that before? Most of the suffering we experience as we get older actually comes from one simple thing: the fear of being alone. But here is what nobody tells you about life once you cross that 65-year mark. The things that truly matter, the things that define a win in this stage of life, are not what you thought they would be when you were 30 or 40. They are much quieter. They are simpler. And sometimes, they are very hard to see. If you still have these things at your age, I want you to listen to me clearly. You are not just surviving. You are winning. I am going to share something vital with you today. Now, the thumbnail mentioned 5 things, but because you are here, I have decided to give you more than that. I want you to count them along with me as we go. Make sure you are checking each one off in your mind, because by the end of this talk, you will know exactly where you stand. And trust me, if you can claim even 3 of these, you are already miles ahead of most people your age. Before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button so we can reach more people who need to hear this. Leave a comment with your age so we can welcome you to our community, and let us begin. Thing number 1, a sanctuary that carries your name. If you are currently navigating the years between 65 and 80, and you have a front door with your name on the deed, I want you to take a deep breath and realize what you have achieved. It doesn't matter if it is a sprawling family home in the suburbs, a modest mobile home, or a small studio apartment in the city. Whether the mortgage is long gone or you are still making those monthly payments, if that place belongs to you, you have secured a victory that most people spend their entire lives chasing but never quite reach. Let me tell you about a woman I know named Evelyn. Evelyn is 74 years old and lives in a quiet neighborhood in Charlotte. For nearly 40 years, she lived in rental properties. She was a nomad by necessity, moving every time a landlord raised the rent or decided to sell the building. She lived by someone else's rules and lived with the constant, nagging fear that one day she'd get a letter telling her she had 30 days to pack up her life. But at 67, after years of careful saving, Evelyn finally bought a small, sun-drenched bungalow. It wasn't fancy, but for the first time in her life, she held the keys to her own future. She told me something I will never forget. She said, "When I wake up in the morning, I look at the cracks in the ceiling and I smile. Because they are my cracks. I don't have to ask for permission to paint a wall or plant a rose bush in the yard. This is my fortress." You see, having your own home at this age isn't about real estate or investment portfolios. It is about dignity. Here is the hard truth that society likes to ignore. The world can be very unkind to senior tenants. Landlords often worry about the liability of older residents. They worry about health crises or what happens if someone passes away in their unit. It is a cold, calculated reality. If you are 70 or 80 years old and you are forced to move, your choices disappear almost instantly. Prices go up, while your options for a safe, accessible place go down. But if your name is on that deed, you have something priceless. Stability, you have a door you can lock, a bed that is truly yours, and a roof that won't be taken away by a market shift. Your mind is at peace because you are not one rent increase away from a disaster. Your children can rest easy knowing you are safe. Evelyn told me, "That feeling of security is worth more than any fancy vacation I never took." My friend, if you have a place with your name on it, you aren't just getting by. You have built a foundation of freedom. You are doing life right. Thing number 2, the miracle of legs that still carry you. If you can still get out of bed this morning, walk to your mailbox, or climb a flight of stairs without needing a hand to hold, I want you to stop for a moment and be grateful. You belong to a much more exclusive group than you realize. At our age, we often take our mobility for granted until the very second it starts to slip away. Let me tell you about Samuel. Samuel is 72 years old and lives in Denver. Just a couple of years ago, he was the kind of man who never sat still. He mowed his own lawn, went for long evening walks, and prided himself on his strength. But one winter morning, a patch of black ice changed everything. He slipped, shattered his hip, and spent the next 6 months in a cycle of surgery and grueling physical therapy. He lost his muscle, but more importantly, he lost his confidence. Samuel told me, "I spent my whole life walking wherever I wanted to go. Now, I have to plan my entire day around how far I can get with a walker. I never knew that my legs were actually my freedom until they stopped following my orders. You see, your legs are so much more than just bone and muscle. They are your autonomy. When your legs work, your world is as big as you want it to be. You can browse the grocery aisles yourself. You can visit a neighbor. You can stand in your kitchen and cook a meal that smells like home. But the moment those legs fail, your entire world begins to shrink. It narrows down to the distance between your bed and your favorite chair. You find yourself needing to ask for rides, needing to wait for help, and needing to rely on the patience of others. The science tells us that after 65, our muscles try to give up on us faster than ever before. If you don't use them, you lose them. But then there is someone like Martha in San Diego. She is 78, and every single morning, regardless of the weather, she walks 3 blocks. Her knees ache, and her back isn't as straight as it used to be. But she keeps moving, she told me. As long as I can put one foot in front of the other, I am still the captain of my own ship. There are people approaching their 80s who still climb the stairs every day. They aren't doing it for exercise. They are doing it for their life. That isn't just luck. My friends, that is the result of respecting the gift of movement while you still have it. If you can still stand on your own 2 feet and walk through your own home without fear, you have something that millions of people your age have already lost. Protect that gift. Use it every day, even if it is just a short walk to the corner and back. Because the day you stop moving is the day your independence begins to fade. If your legs are still carrying you through this world, you are winning. You are doing life right. Thing number 3, the true wealth of one real connection. If you have one person in your life whom you can call at 2 in the morning, when your mind is heavy, just one person who truly knows your story and still wants to hear more, then you are wealthier than most billionaires on this planet. At our stage of life, we don't need a crowded room or a long list of acquaintances. We need a witness to our lives. Let me tell you about Arthur. Arthur is 76, living in the suburbs of Chicago. He doesn't have a big social circle anymore. Many of his old colleagues have moved away, and some have already passed on. But every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, without fail, Arthur meets his friend Leo at a small diner for breakfast. Arthur told me once, "We don't talk about anything world-changing. We talk about our gardens, our back pain, or a movie we saw. But when I'm sitting across from Leo, I feel seen. I feel like I still exist in this fast-moving world." That, my friends, is the medicine of friendship. The statistics are actually quite frightening. Research shows that chronic loneliness after 65 is as physically damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. It weakens your heart, it clouds your memory, and it steals years from your life. But here is the secret. The cure isn't having 10 friends or 5 friends. The cure is having one. One person who remembers your birthday without a Facebook reminder. One person who asks, "How are you really doing?" and actually waits for the answer. One person who doesn't just talk at you, but listens to you. I think of Rose in Seattle. Her best friend lives 3 states away, but they have a sacred date every Sunday evening on the phone. Rose says, "I spend all week holding things in, but on Sunday, I let them out." That 1 hour of being heard keeps me going for the next 7 days. As we age, our social circles naturally shrink. People drift away, and the silence in the house can become deafening. But if you have managed to keep just one bridge open, if you have one soul you can be honest with, you have a shield against the darkness of isolation. And if you don't have that person yet, it is never too late. It starts with one brave phone call, one shared cup of coffee, or one honest moment with a neighbor. If you have that one person who truly gets you, you aren't just getting by. You are rich in the only currency that matters. You are doing life right. Thing number 4, the phone rings because they want to hear your voice. If your children call you just to check in, just to share a small detail about their day, or just to say "I love you," then you have achieved one of the greatest successes a parent can ever hope for. You see, after 65, the relationship with our children changes. It is no longer about them needing us for survival. It is about them wanting us in their lives. Let me tell you about a woman named Eleanor from Atlanta. Eleanor is 69, and she has 3 grown children. 2 of them call her every week, but her youngest calls her every single morning while he is driving to work. Eleanor told me, "He doesn't need money. He doesn't need me to watch the grandkids. He just wants to tell me about his morning or ask what I'm cooking for dinner. She smiled and said, I don't need expensive gifts or fancy holiday visits. I just need to know that in their busy lives, I am still someone they want to talk to. That is the true measure of a successful parent. It isn't how much you provided or how successful they became. It's whether they still choose to invite you into their inner world when they don't have to. There is a painful reality that many people in our age group face, but few talk about openly. For many, the phone stays silent. Or when it does ring, the conversation feels transactional. They only call when they need a favor, a lawn, or a babysitter. Sometimes it's because of old misunderstandings that were never healed. Sometimes it's because of a distance that grew over years of guilt or control. But if your children reach out to you out of pure love, you have built something unbreakable. It means you raised them with enough respect that they now treat you with that same respect as adults. You gave them the wings to fly, but you kept the nest warm enough that they still want to look back. I think of George in Denver. His daughter lives across the country, but she calls him 3 times a week just to chat. George told me, I used to think my career was my legacy. But now that I'm 73, I realize my legacy is her voice on the other end of that line. It's the best part of my entire week. If your children call you not out of obligation, but out of genuine affection, you have done something profoundly right. You have cultivated a relationship built on love, not duty. And in this stage of life, that connection is worth more than any inheritance. If your kids still want to talk to you, you are winning. You are doing life right. Thing number 5, the quiet dignity of having enough. If you can pay your electric bill this month, buy your groceries, and cover your medicine without having to ask anyone for a loan, be proud of yourself. We aren't talking about being a millionaire. We aren't talking about luxury cars or fancy vacations. We are talking about the power of being self-sufficient. At our age, having enough is the ultimate form of freedom. Let me tell you about Henry. Henry is 70 years old and lives in Philadelphia. He spent 45 years working as a mechanic. He never had a corner office, and he never made a 6-figure salary. But Henry was disciplined. He saved what he could, and he lived within his means. Today, he lives on his Social Security and a small, modest pension. Henry told me, I don't have a lot of extras, but when the mail comes, I'm not afraid of the envelopes. I know I can take care of myself. That feeling of not being a burden to my kids, that's my real wealth. There is a harsh reality in America today that many people don't want to talk about. So many seniors are living in the shadows of poverty. They work their whole lives, but the rising costs of living have left them behind. They are forced to choose between a warm house and the medication they need to stay alive. They live with a heavy cloud of shame because they have to ask their children, who are often struggling themselves, for help with the rent. But if you planned ahead, or even if you just learned to be content with a simpler life, you have protected your dignity. When you have basic financial security, you aren't living in a state of panic. You aren't lying awake at night wondering if you'll be evicted or if you'll have to skip meals next week. You have the ability to look the world in the eye and say, I am taken care of. I remember Gloria in Phoenix. She told me, I don't have money for a new car, and I don't go out to fancy dinners, but I have enough to keep my lights on and my pantry full. And at 72, that is all I ever wanted. If you can pay your own way and hold your head high, you have achieved something millions are still struggling to find. You have peace of mind. And that is a luxury money can't buy. If you have enough to live without begging, you are winning. You are doing life right. Now, let me ask you, how many of those 5 things do you have? If you checked off all 5, you are thriving. But life after 65 always gives you more if you know where to look. There is a thin line between getting by and being truly alive. That line is defined by these next 2 final victories. Let's move right along to the first one, the quiet freedom of a heart that no longer carries the weight of resentment. Thing number 6, a bed that isn't heavy with resentment. Can you go to sleep tonight without replaying old arguments in your head? Can you think of the people who hurt you 10, 20, or 30 years ago without that familiar tightness in your chest? If you can, my friend, you are truly free. You see, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It doesn't hurt them. Most of the time, they've forgotten all about it. It only hurts you. Let me tell you about Thomas from Chicago. Thomas is 72. And for over 2 decades, he carried a burning hatred for his younger brother. It started over their father's will, some land, some money, things that seemed so important back then. They stopped speaking. Holidays became cold. Family gatherings were filled with an awkward silence that felt like lead. Thomas would lie in bed at night, thinking of all the clever, cutting things he should have said. His wife finally told him, "Thomas, you're angrier at him than he is at you. He's out living his life, and you're stuck in a dark room with a ghost." She was right. It wasn't until a doctor asked him what was causing his high blood pressure and constant stress that Thomas realized the price he was paying. He didn't call his brother to apologize or to say he was wrong. He just called to talk. The ice didn't melt overnight, but the weight in his chest did. Thomas told me, "I didn't forgive him because he deserved it. I forgave him because I wanted to breathe again." As we age, that weight of bitterness only gets heavier. When you're young, you can carry a grudge and still run. But at 70, that weight will break you. It steals your sleep, it weakens your immune system, and it robs you of the joy right in front of you. Letting go doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everyone who wronged you. It just means you've decided they don't get to live rent-free in your head anymore. If you can lay your head on your pillow tonight and feel nothing but peace, you have achieved a victory that most people never find. You have chosen your own peace over being right, and at our age, that is the only choice that matters. Thing number 7, a reason to put your feet on the floor. This is the final piece of the puzzle. It isn't just about waking up, it's about having something to wake up for. It doesn't have to be a grand mission. It doesn't have to change the world. It just has to matter to you. Think about Dorothy in Phoenix. When her husband passed away 3 years ago, Dorothy lost her rhythm. For months, she'd wake up and think, why bother getting out of bed? Her daughter noticed the light fading from her eyes and bought her a simple bird feeder. At first, Dorothy didn't care, but then a bright red cardinal showed up. Then a blue jay. Pretty soon, Dorothy was waking up at 6 in the morning because she knew those birds were waiting for their seeds. She told me, "Those little birds gave me a schedule. And once I had a schedule, I started finding my life again. Whether it's tending to a small garden, volunteering at the local library like Margaret in Denver, or even just walking to the corner store for a coffee and a chat like Charles in Philly, that routine is your heartbeat." The danger of retirement isn't the lack of work, it's the lack of purpose. We've all seen it, the person who retires and, within 2 years, looks like they've aged 10. Their mind gets foggy because it has nothing to solve. Their body gets weak because it has nowhere to go. But the ones who thrive are the ones with a micro-purpose. Maybe it's writing letters to your grandkids, or baking bread for a neighbor, or finally finishing that puzzle. If you wake up and think, today matters, I have something to do, then you are winning the battle against time itself. Because as long as you have a reason to open your eyes, you are alive in the truest sense of the word. So, let me ask you one last time. Out of these 7 things, how many can you check off today? If you realize during this talk that you have more than you once thought, then our conversation today has done its job. We spend so much of our lives looking backward at what we've lost: our youth, our careers, or old friends who are no longer with us. But if you have a roof over your head, legs that move, a child who calls, a heart without bitterness, and a small reason to get up tomorrow, then you aren't just surviving, you are winning. You are absolutely winning. If you made it to the very end of this talk, it tells me that you are someone who values growth and reflection, and that alone sets you apart from the crowd. Now, I have a small request for you. If this message touched your heart, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We share these heart-to-heart talks every week, and I don't want you to miss our next meeting. It helps our community grow, and it reminds us all that we are not walking this path alone. Leave a comment below and tell me which of these 7 is your biggest victory today. I read every single one of them. Remember, you're still here, you're still learning, and you're still doing life right. I'll see you in the next talk.